Time is 6:30 and a quorum being present, I call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Is there any discussion over the meeting minutes for the December 13th, 2023 meeting minutes?
No comments.
No comments. If there's no comments, could I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, that passes. All right. Next item on the agenda is Agenda Item A, request for certificate of compliance, 1201 Main Street, DEP file number 305-997. Could you please introduce yourselves for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Hi, my name is James Wu. I'm with New Horizons.
I think you turned it off.
Oh, I thought I had to hold it down. Sorry. I'm James Wu. I'm with New Horizons Realty Group.
My name is William Burnham. I'm with TEC.
So I'm here tonight to just speak on the, I believe, just two open items on the application for, or in order to get this, our certificate of compliance. I did watch the video. I didn't come to the last meeting, January 10th, but I did watch the video. And I believe it was standard 18 and special condition 9 that were the two outstanding items. So special condition 9 was the, I guess, by flag A7, some of the refuge and cans and bottles and things like that. So we had sent some, TEC had sent some pictures earlier that I had taken. So there's a package here if you wanted to see them. But flag A7 is no longer there, but I went by the, the approximate location and went and found a whole bunch of things that shouldn't have been there. Fortunately, all the snow had melted in February, so I was able to do that. So I collected what I could see visibly, and 2 bags of refuge got taken out and put in the dumpster. So I believe that was the special condition 9. And then the standard 18 was the operations and maintenance logs. And so we have an operation and maintenance standard that I believe was published February, right, of 2016. And so the logs that go along with that have been completed. So I submitted that to TEC as well. Currently, the site is maintained by Young Landscaping of Andover, and prior to that, it was True Landscaping in Billerica, and prior to that, it was Bradley, who's here in town. So the property's always been maintained, and I'm sure if people drive by in town, I think you would agree, we try to do a good job. So as far as the, items on the log sheet, that's, so there's somebody at the property weekly, starting, basically in mid-April. So it's weekly maintenance. So they do take care of the stormwater basins. And so all the swales and the little drainage connector between the one drainage pond to the other one in the front, those are always checked to make sure there's no debris in there, and if there is, they pick it up and that sort of thing. And then as far as when phase 2 got done, they maintained those areas as well. I know there was talk last meeting about the size, right?
Yeah, there was a resizing effort at one point because when the basin was originally built, it wasn't at matching the design volume. After it was rebuilt, once that was discovered, and now it's exceeding the design volume.
Right. So, so yeah, that's basically my comments for tonight. I figured I should show up being the owner. And where there's, I think this has been kind of ongoing since 2016-ish. So I mean, the building has been occupied since 2018. We've had a certificate of occupancy, but we've had to wait a couple years for trees to mature and for our wetland scientists to confirm that. So Norris Environmental has done that as of a couple years ago. There was some questions about species of things, but certain things were available, other things weren't. So we substituted what we felt were of equal type, I guess. I'm not an arborist, so we tried to do things that way.
All right. All right, any questions or comments from the commission? No? Acting agent, do you have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only comment I have is the planning board is still waiting for an outstanding as-built, and if this certificate of compliance is issued tonight, I think you can likely move forward with submitting that. We can get your bonds returned to you there as well.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. If there is no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve the certificate of compliance as discussed at this meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please?
Aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is another request for certificate of compliance for Ponderosa Road, DEP file number 305-1015. This was continued from the 4/17 meeting. Is there anybody here for that? Please state your name for the record. And the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Jim Hanley, Civil Design Consultants. We were here 2 weeks ago. I believe at that point, the only outstanding item was the placement of the timber, 25-foot demarcating timbers. Since then, they have been installed, I've been told. I'm not sure if the sticker is on them or what have you, but what I understand is that they have been installed at an appropriate distance, 25 feet from the wets.
All right. Any questions or comments from the commission?
Do you know who maintains the detention pond that's on the property? Is that the homeowner or is that?
Yeah, it's in the homeowner, so it's on the homeowner because it's in an easement right there, so.
Okay, just want to make sure.
All right. Looks good to me. So if there's no further discussion, I will entertain a motion to approve the certificate of compliance as discussed at this meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is agenda item C, request for certificate of compliance for 325 Marshall Street, DP file number, sorry about that, DP file number 305-1107. Once again, please state your name for the record.
Jim Hanley, Civil Design Consultants. So this is essentially the request for certificate of compliance for Terramore Drive. I'm not sure how many of you were on the commission at that point, but we began design and permitting somewhere in 2019, 2020. We were out doing construction 21, 22. Worked in 22 and 23 to put the as-builts together, submitted that to the town. Roadway was accepted last year. We had 2 ponds that were a little long in draining down, and this required 72 hours. Had a couple of meetings with the town, went out there last fall, implemented the adjustments, and have been monitoring those since they were made in maybe November, give or take. And we've hit, they are draining. So at this point, once we had records that they're draining, we filed the certificate of compliance request, and that's what we're here for tonight.
So you said that it took 72 hours to drain the ponds or?
Yeah, so I don't know how familiar you are with the project, but there's seven or eight individual BMPs that are scattered throughout the 3,000-ish feet of roadway and 39 lots. There was one pond that was not draining all the time in the 72 hours, right? That was toward the lowest point on the site. We met with the town, came up with a solution, which was basically to scrape off the top 4 inches of loam. Sometimes during the construction process, that gets compacted, and it gets, there's additional silt that washes into it, and that seems to have done the trick. So scraped it off, put down a granular material. We actually did that on another pond, even though we felt that one was draining adequately, but since we were doing it, we did that too.
And is this the one that there's further detention basin?
So the pond that Mr. Hanley's referring to is the stormwater BMP that he mentioned was not draining correctly, and they were working with the DPW to come up with a solution to ensure that it was draining, because, yeah, as he mentioned, it was taking a little too long. So if you'll allow me, Mr. Chairman, just wanted to see, Mr. Hanley, where you are with the review process with the DPW. Just forgive me, I didn't have a chance to ask them about it today.
Yeah, you're doing double time. Let's see, so I did kind of go through this. So we sat down with them, I think you were there, Alex, in September, made modifications sometime around November, give or take. Then Bill Hall from my office did a site walk in March with DPW.
Okay.
They walked it. I don't know, 3-4 weeks went by, we hadn't heard anything, we kept on monitoring the systems, they're functioning adequately, and decided we were going to file.
Okay. How did
So-
it do during the last major rain event that we had a couple of weeks ago?
So every time so as part of the certificate request, we've provided a handful of storms
Yep.
where it did. Where in every single one of them, it's working in the 72 hours. I'm not sure which one you're talking about, but we haven't had any
Yeah,
record.
right.
Right? I mean, in excess of the 72.
Okay. Thank you.
So just so we're clear, that it sounds like we can most likely approve this, but any further work with the DPW, that still applies, it doesn't, affect.
Yeah,
this
I mean,
decision.
we provided the information. I don't have any outstanding comments back, I think is the fairest way to say it. And there's still a bond that the planning board holds, right, that we have to go through with the planning board process. So, yeah.
All right. Any further questions from the commission?
Are the infiltration basins maintained by the town?
No. No. Nope, the entire stormwater system is maintained by the HOA.
Okay.
All right. If there are no further questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve the certificate of compliance as discussed at this meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. All right, another request for certificate of compliance, this time for 782 Main Street, DEP file number 305-418, 481, yes. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Good evening, my name is Bridget Souza. I work with Keach Nordstrom Associates on behalf of Mr. Triglione.
All right, and the floor is yours.
All right, so this property is the Napa Auto Store just up the street. It's kind of got a long history. But in 1994, an order of conditions was issued for the project. And then in 98, there was, back and forth with the planning board on getting a special permit and site plan approval. Once they did, it kind of just sat. So they ended up applying for an extension. The extension was granted, and then they got a foundation permit. There was some back and forth, but eventually the only work that got done on the property was the foundation for the approved building addition was installed, and then it was backfilled. But while the contractor was out there, the only work that was done that was not on the approved plan for the order of conditions was they dug out a detention basin. So it seems that back in '94, when they got the plan approved from conservation, it included some underground sort of infiltration system. But the plan that was approved by planning board included a basin. So I'm not 100% sure where the miscommunication came on later on, but a basin was installed in '98 along with the foundation, and no other work was ever moved forward with on this project. So we're requesting the certificate for partial work, that being the foundation, and then we are on later on for an RDA to discuss the detention basin and whatnot.
So it's just the foundation was built, and then that was backfilled.
Yep.
So I guess I'm familiar with the area, but the actual, can you see the foundation at this
Yeah,
point?
you can. For a majority of the area, you can actually see the entire top of the foundation wall, yeah. Enough so that our survey crews could pick up the entire thing when they were out there. Yep.
Any other questions from the commission?
And I'm sorry, did they backfill the retention basin? Is that what happened?
No, so when they were out there, before the project had been discussed about going any further, they kind of just dug the hole because they already had an excavator out there.
Oh, they dug it.
Yeah, so even though that was not a part of the approved conservation plan, it was part of the planning board plan, but it was never done properly, and like I said, the project never moved forward from there.
Thanks, okay.
And so I just, I guess for the record, in the past, we've done invalid certificate of compliances for work that was not done at all.
Yep.
But there was work done, it just was never completed, so.
Correct.
The.
It's just the foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your understanding is that the foundation was built to proper building standards at the time, but just
Correct.
nothing ever went.
Nothing went further than that.
All right. So yeah, I believe if anybody wants to make a motion, it's not for an invalid certificate of compliance because there was work done. It would just be for a standard certificate of compliance for this project. Do I have a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
All right, agenda item E, request to extend an order of conditions for 135 Pleasant Street, DEP file number 305-1103. Could you please state your name, and then the floor is yours.
Good evening. My name is Mike Ensminger. I work with Turner and Townsend Heery. We're the owner's project manager on behalf of the town for the Center Elementary School project at 135 Pleasant Street.
All right.
So yeah, we're looking to have the order of conditions extended for a year. There's one condition that we have not finished as of this time. It's just the as-built drawings. We've been having a back and forth with a contractor about what was owned in their contract. So we're trying to get it squared away. We think we'll honestly may not even need the extension because it expires on the 27th, but to be safe, we wanted to file for the extension just to make sure we had the proper time to get it.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's an issue of getting it. I think it's just a matter of the time.
So there's no major work being done?
No, there's no major work. We actually have the engineer going out there next week just to verify that it's the grading as built that we're waiting on.
Yeah, I believe I went to the opening of the elementary school.
I was there.
After kids had already been going there for a couple months.
Yes.
So I hope that no major work is going on.
No major work is needed. It's just an as-built drawing.
All right, any questions or comments from the commission for this one? Not hearing anything, I will entertain a motion to approve the extension of an order of conditions for 1 year.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, agenda item F, request to extend an order of condition for 138 Castle Street, DP file number 305-1062.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Jim Hanley, Civil Design Consultants. So this is a 2018 project. It is I believe there's 3 additional houses, somewhere about 350 feet of private roadway, and then an existing house. So it was all together, it was 4. One of the owners of the property is developing it. We've done an as-built, and he needs a little bit more time to finish up some of the work associated with the buffer zone, specifically the pond area. 2 of the last 3 years have been super wet. He's a smaller developer, so he's kind of waiting for the area to dry out a little bit before he enters with an excavator and makes things even worse. So we're looking for a 12-month extension. We're hoping to have the work done this summer and be back in the fall for a request.
All right. Any questions or comments from the commission?
Yeah, straightforward.
Seems pretty standard. Could I entertain a motion to approve the request to extend an order of conditions by 1 year?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.
Great.
Thank you very
Thank
much. All right. Agenda item G, public hearing. Request for determination of applicability, Joseph Watson, 156 County Road. This is continued from the 4/17 meeting. Is there anybody here for that? Could you state your name for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Joseph Watson from J.W. Watson in Andover.
And so can you walk us through what you plan on doing?
We'd like to install a sewer at 156 County Road down the left-hand side of the house to the rear yard where his pipe comes out now.
All right. If there's any questions or comments from the commission, feel free to jump in. I'm just,
Is this a failed system, or they just want to hook
yes.
up to sewer? Oh, it's a failed system?
Yeah.
Okay.
This guy, I don't think he has much money. I've never met him, to tell you the truth, but I don't think he'd be doing it if it was still working. Now, you can see it at the ground level.
So why isn't this an emergency?
yeah, it was just,
So at the time, did he receive a failed Title V?
I don't know if he did
Yeah,
that
so
or
I
not.
checked with the health department, there wasn't a failed Title V, and that's typically what triggers the emergency certification process. So it just went through the regular RDA process, because at that point, without an emergency certification, it's considered elective.
all right.
But in order to have the emergency cert, you have to have that failed Title V and have for hand. So if an inspector didn't come out and do it, then,
No, I think it was the guy who pumps the tank actually noticed that the grass is a little greener on the left-hand side of the
right, so
house.
it must have been preemptive action.
Yeah.
But it amounts to the same thing.
Yeah. Certainly don't want to, get in the way of fixing a septic, tank or anything.
Is there a map depicting the wetlands? There's nothing within that.
I don't have one, no.
RDA form that was provided.
Joe told me that the work I wanted to do was, I think he said within 100 feet of the work, and the wetlands was,
Yeah, that's why you file an RDA, but we don't understand the impact because there's no map depicting where the wetlands are and what your proposed work is.
No, I've never seen one to tell, oh, wait a minute, yes, I did. It's almost the whole backyard, along with the neighbor's backyard, and it was a pretty good-sized area, actually.
All right.
Yeah, without it being an emergency and I don't have the proper information, I don't feel comfortable voting yes on it tonight, personally.
Oh, all right.
I can provide some context if it helps.
Yeah.
So the septic is in the rear of the house, correct?
The tank and the
Yeah, so
pump is,
that's what's
yes.
triggering the filing, is that they would have to pump and crush the septic tank. That's in the rear of the house. And looking at the aerial imagery, approximately where the septic tank is around 50 feet. It's just, so that's why it's here.
From the wetlands,
Correct.
yeah.
From what the state has noted as their wetlands, but I expect that they're actually, they
No, I
encroach
was
a little
kind of
bit closer.
surprised, it's a very big area that they had
Yeah.
marked out there.
Yep, it's the whole, it seems to be the rear of that whole side of the street.
Yeah. But,
All right. Because, so it's about 50 feet away from the wetlands?
The septic tank is, yes.
All right. So typically, we would ask for erosion controls, straw wattles to be placed around the perimeter of the work going, that's being done for something like this. Does that satisfy, or would you like to?
So is the only work crushing and then the sewer line as depicted from the town drawing going to go in front of the septic tank, existing septic tank?
yeah,
Not
but
any
it goes
closer to
from the
wetlands?
back of the house where the tank is, if you're looking at the house on the left-hand side out to the road.
Yeah. I was going to say, we've run into this in the past where people haven't been providing the proper map, so we kind of had the decision that you have to delineate the wetlands, or not delineate the wetlands, but show the wetlands and show that you're not encroaching, or what the work is encroaching within the 50, 100, or 25-foot buffers, so. I guess for this project, since it's simple enough that you're just crushing, just provide the proper erosion control and make sure either the conservation agent or the town representative at the time is on site before work commences with erosion controls on site.
Okay. Do you want to send me what you want?
So if it's all right, Mr. Chairman, typically for the RDAs, they put through a standard condition, which is to install and maintain the erosion and sediment controls, including a properly entrenched silt fence around the area of construction. So that'll be around the area where the septic tank is to be crushed and the new line is to be installed. And then before any of the actual construction activity takes place, assuming it happens very soon, I will come out and inspect the erosion controls. You just leave those up while the work's being done, and you just tell me what day to be out there, and I'll come take a look and make sure that it's entrenched properly.
Oh, all right, so all I gotta do is put some silt fence up
Yep.
of my own. I can pick where it's gonna go. It's basically where the septic, I know,
Right.
Yeah, just,
It has to be approved by
Right
the
behind
town
the septic
representative,
tank.
though.
I assume most people do it a couple feet away. just
Yeah,
so-
oh, no,
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Should I be 10 feet away from it, or?
You just want to make sure that you're encompassing the entire limit of work, so anywhere you plan to have
All the way out to the
stockpile
road?
dirt or anything like that.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Protecting the wetlands.
all right. Can I use the straw wattle?
Yep, so straw wattles and/or a silt fence, that can be either up to the commission or up to, if you want to leave it up to them, what they're able to.
It's just the straw wattle is so much easier to install and get rid of, rather than a silt fence. Because when you take the silt fence out, then you got more loom and seeding to do too, to make it look right.
I'm comfortable with either one.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
sure.
am too. I find the silt fence doesn't hold up as well as the wattle too, so.
Well, and this is going to be a much shorter project, and I think it may
Yeah,
not be worth
4
trenching
days around
silt
there.
fences
3
just for
days,
the
hopefully,
septic.
but 4 days, I figured.
All right, so if there's, well, actually, before we get
So what I'll do is I'll put the straw wattle in and then have Alexandra come and inspect it.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Sounds good.
all right.
Sorry, and one more note, Mr. Chairman, and for the commission's comfort, I can certainly take a map and upload it to the file and just make sure that we have it for the record, showing where the wetlands are, where the proposed work is, and eventually where the straw wattles end up, just so everything's complete.
Excellent.
Thank you. All right, so if there's no more discussion from the commission, This is a public hearing. If there's anybody from the public who would like to get up and make a comment, now is the time to do so. I'll give you a few seconds. But not seeing anybody run to the podium, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And could I have a motion to, could I have a motion for a negative determination of applicability as discussed at this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Perfect, thank you.
We'll be in touch. Thank you.
All right. Agenda item H, public hearing, request for determination of applicability, Coughlin Environmental Services LLC on behalf of the town of Tewksbury, DPW, Chandler Street between Main Street and East Street. Could you please introduce yourself for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Good evening. My name's Dan Coughlin, Coughlin Environmental Services. We're consulting engineers for the DPW. This year, they're doing a series of sidewalk improvements on Pleasant and Chandler. There's one area on Chandler Street where we are actually going over a culvert. There's existing sidewalk there now, but it's going to be upgraded. New sidewalk, new crosswalk ramps, and granite curbing will be installed. The area shown on the plan here, you can see there's a small channel. Red Maple Swamp is basically on the south side of Chandler Street and extends by a culvert to a small channel on the north side of the roadway. The line in here is basically going to be a water along the stone wall. There's an existing stone wall there, but it's a dry wall, has cavities, and it has varying heights. So the water will be installed all the way along within the buffer. We'll also be putting in silt sacks at all the pitch basins, not only there, but along the roadway as well.
All right. Any questions or comments from the commission?
Have you guys inspected the culvert to see the condition of it?
We have not. I believe the DPW has. It's still functional, although.
In okay shape?
Might be a little.
It's not going to be disturbed by this work, essentially?
I mean, it's prone to debris collection, as far as I know, so. But it's flowing.
All right. Unless there's anything else to discuss, this is a public hearing. If anybody from the public would like to get up and make a comment, now is the time to do so. Give you a few seconds. Not seeing anybody get up, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And could I have a motion for a negative determination of applicability as discussed at this meeting?
Excuse me, one moment, Mr. Chairman. If we could also just put on the record that we will have the special conditions to accompany the determination of that applicability where the erosion and sediment controls will be installed as the proponent discussed. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion for a negative determination of applicability, and do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.
Okay,
Thank you very
Thank you very much. Very efficient.
All right, agenda item I is public hearing, request for determination of applicability for Keach Nordstrom Associates, Inc. on behalf of Triglino, Arthur J. and Anthony J., 792 Main Street. I apologize if I got that name wrong. Please introduce yourself for the record, and the floor is yours.
All right. My name is Bridget Souza with Keach Nordstrom Associates, representing Mr. Triglione.
That makes more sense than what I said.
Yeah. So apparently my stand is broken, so I apologize.
We have,
Awesome.
you.
I had to blame my coworker for that. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Right. So we're here in front of you this evening in hopes to receive a negative determination on our RDA request. The client is trying to move forward with a project that was permitted in the 90s. So to run through for the record, in 94, an order of conditions was issued for a building addition with associated stormwater improvements and parking and utilities. And it was also permitted with the planning board in 94 as well. No work was completed on the project until 98, when the building foundation was installed, and that was the limit of work. There was a detention basin that was dug out in 98 when they were doing the construction of the foundation, and that was to help backfill the foundation. They needed a little excess material. So they had dug that basin because it was on the approved plan by the planning board. After that, there was some back and forth with the town. The site has a long history, but work completely halted and no other work was completed or moved forward. So the reason that an order of conditions was obtained in the 90s is because there was some wetland area in this back corner. And that area was alongside the old railroad bed. In 94, there was a wetland report that was prepared and submitted with the submission for the notice of intent. But it's been 3 decades since then. We had a wetland scientist go out there and even met with the now former conservation agent, Mr. Fontaine, on the property to go through a site walk and determine, okay, is this actually wetlands, or is it isolated land subject to flooding, or is it just a really wet area? So currently, there is no vegetation except for one red maple, and it's only because it's been there for a long time, to support bordering vegetative wetlands. The species out there is largely invasive, consisting of knotweed, Asian bittersweet, and tree of heaven. And it's actually encroached pretty much all the way up to just around this area. That's how invasive it's become in that area. So he did not feel it met the criteria set forth by mass regulations to be deemed a BVW. So then our next step was to take a look at whether or not this could be considered isolated land subject to flooding. So the requirements for that is to have an availability of a 1/4 acre-foot of storage, as well as 6 inches of standing water in combination. So that depression area is just that, it's a depression. So using a little bit of GIS and our own mapping, we calced out what the actual volume is in that area, and it's less than 3,000 cubic feet. So a 1/4 acre-foot is just under 11,000. So we're well below meeting that standard for isolated land as well. And then the next item would be the detention basin that was dug out in 98. So since it happened in 98, it cannot be grandfathered in as an isolated wetland per the regulations, which I believe was late 96, to be deemed an isolated wetland. And this as well is less than 3,000 cubic feet of storage from the top of the berm. So both areas are well under meeting that regulation of isolated land. And so we wanted to come before you tonight to make a determination, to see if you guys agreed with us. Just because moving forward with planning, this is something that needed to be figured out first, especially when it comes to our drainage design. I'll also show you some historical elevations, aerials. So this is an aerial from 1995. You can see it's all wooded. There's no clear depressions in here, and this is right where that basin is. And then this is the aerial from 2001, Unfortunately, there is a lapse in historical imagery, but it's clear as day. When they installed that foundation, they cleared all this out, all that vegetation, and you can clearly see that they installed it. It's fresh and it's a little blown up here. If you look on the computer, it's a little more clear. But this wasn't there formerly. And that basin would be included in part of our stormwater design to move forward getting a site plan approval. So that's why we're here tonight. Do you guys have any questions?
So yeah, when initially reviewing this, the size of the changes kind of, it flew, put up some red flags because of the proposed changes. And it's only an RDA that you're going for, not a notice of intent. But
And that was because of our site walk with Joe, with our wetland scientist, discussing, going back and forth, what do we see for vegetation? What's predominant here? He felt he agreed with our wetland scientist that it's very largely invasive species, only the one red maple, and that we would have to make that calculation as to whether or not there's enough criteria to meet the isolated land, which it does not seem there is.
all right. So, and you pointed out a little bit, can you just, on this aerial, can you point out where the closest wetlands currently are?
So this was the area in question. So this is just a large depression, but the whole depression area, it slopes back up in all directions, and then you have the rail bed here. So it's just a low area that collects water, but like I said, isn't large enough to meet that isolated land subject. I assume, back in the day, based on the wetland report from the 90s, that this was more of a wetland area, could be deemed a BVW that doesn't have the size requirement, but none of that vegetation exists anymore. It's been completely taken over by invasive species. You take a walk out there and it's like the bamboo shoots everywhere from the invasive stuff, unfortunately.
What's the plan for the building?
So, yeah, we can walk through that.
Adding that addition,
Yeah, so
the originally planned
the plan-
addition?
Yeah, the plan is to utilize that installed foundation. That'll be the footprint of the addition. So here's the existing building, and then there's the limit of the foundation that's out there. So it'd be constructed on top of that. We have a 5-foot sidewalk, parking, a required drive aisle, and then this is the area of that basin now. So we would just clean that out and utilize that to promote some more infiltration. Dig out all the scum and leaves that's collected over the years. Just make sure it's nice, it can actually infiltrate again. And then we'd go back to that original design that was permitted in the 90s of it just, there being a little riprap overflow.
Would the building owner consider making a rain garden there or something that would, absorb
We could
water?
definitely take a look at making it a bioretention area instead of a straight infiltration basin, definitely.
Just to be absolutely clear, the existing foundation, you're just using the site plans, not the actual, you're going to be rebuilding the entire building? Or,
No, we're not rebuilding the entire building. So the existing portion of the building will remain, and then they'll utilize that installed foundation for the new building. If
that
any
hasn't been degraded or anything?
No, because it's been backfilled, really. So they'll have somebody determine if that needs to be repaired in any spots or replaced in any spots. But the intent is to reutilize that footprint.
And I think I counted 38 parking spots existing right now. Do you have, the differences that you're planning?
Yeah, so currently this parking area has 38. We're eliminating one space here in order to put a drive aisle. And then we have another 30 spaces being installed, so that's a total of 67 spaces, and that's to meet planning board requirements.
All right. All right, any other questions or comments from the commission, or Alex, do you have any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, they're coming to me anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, if you can fit in a rain garden of some sort.
Okay.
That would be great, and it sounds like you're already planning, or you'd have to get rid of all the invasive species just because of the work you're doing, but any other invasive species, Japanese knotweed and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To be removed, I'd like to see that.
Absolutely. Most of that will have to be dug out anyways in order to make this fit, but.
All right,
And our operation and maintenance plan that will be included as part of our drainage report has a whole section on how to handle invasive species as well, so.
Yeah, and if you do a rain garden, it'll need to be updated.
Yeah.
Are you doing deep sump catch basins? The plan didn't really show any dimensions.
Yeah, so it'll be a deep sump. There is pretty shallow cover to make sure that we can promote infiltration. So we'll go through that with planning, but that's our intent, to use the shallowest chambers possible, promote infiltration under the impervious area in the parking lot, but deep sump equipped with a snout.
Okay.
all right. If there's no further questions or comments from the commission, this is a public hearing. If anybody in the public would like to make a comment, I ask that you introduce yourself at the podium, and you can pretty much say whatever you want to after that. But not seeing anybody get up, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And could I have a motion for a negative determination of applicability as discussed at this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very
Great.
much.
Thank you so much.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is being continued. This is the ANRAD, right? Yes. So this is a public hearing. I believe I already opened up the public hearing from a few meetings ago. I would prefer nobody to comment on it because they are requesting this to be continued to the next meeting or the
Correct, May 22nd.
May 22nd meeting. So could I have a motion to continue this public hearing, abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for Norse Environmental Services on behalf of Ivan Cormier Construction Corps, 1596 Andover Street, DP file number 305-1194, to the next meeting in May.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right, agenda item K, this is public hearing, notice of intent, Oxbow Associates on behalf of Jason LaRoque, 215 Marshall Street, DP file number 305-1198. I ask that you introduce yourselves for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Kyle Cormier with Oxbow Associates. And Jason LaRoque, the owner of 215 Marshall Street.
Thank you.
Just to give a brief overview of the project. So on-site resource area is BVW. There is a PVP adjacent to the property. It's PVP 25668. The proposed project is removing an existing patio feature. It's basically a concrete structure that was put on the property by the previous homeowner, located between the garage and the house, the existing garage and the existing house. remove vegetation, primarily just low-growing shrubs around the existing garage. No machinery is proposed for this work. The reason for the removal is that it's growing on the garage. There's a photo in the application showing that. Removing the existing deck on the house and replacing it with partially with new deck and pavers. On the plan, it does show completely replaced with pavers, but after the application, Jason thought it'd be more economical to replace a portion of it with decking. It's going to be replaced in kind, no expansion of the deck. Small addition is proposed, 12 by 18 addition. It will be placed on helical piles instead of a foundation on existing yard. And the shed, existing shed will be removed, which is in the same general area where the addition is proposed. We will put silt fence and mulch wattles around the entire perimeter of the proposed work, which is shown in the plan. No trees are proposed to be removed. Within the 25-foot buffer zone, the only work is the trimming of the shrubs along the garage, the existing garage. And within the 50-foot buffer zone is the addition, but no work is closer than existing conditions, so that number is 26 feet. Yeah, if there's any questions.
So the property, the rest of it, it's just a long, narrow thing all the way back to, how far does it go back? And that's all wetlands back there?
Yeah, it's all wetlands.
And so the landscape feature, what is that currently? That's just shrubs and stuff, or is that?
The landscape feature that is there currently, I guess Jason described it to me earlier. I haven't seen that before, but it's like a concrete rebar structure that is long and narrow. And the previous homeowner used it for like model rail cars or something like that. So
It literally is like almost like a Disneyland structure of like a faux wall that has tunnels that he must have had a railroad track system going through it. He had water
Don't
features.
describe it too much, it might be a historic Nile. And then I guess my only other question is the wood deck is being removed and patio pavers, so water will be able to go infiltrate through there, I take it?
yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments? from-
And I'm sorry, you said the addition, it will be above, it won't be a foundation? It'll be,
Correct.
Yeah,
you know,
on helical.
Like on
Yeah, the helical
stilts?
piers where they drill those piers in the ground.
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
They have the base that you put in, and there's really no disturbance to digging or anything.
Thank you.
All right.
So is the wood deck or the patio, or addition gonna be in the 25-foot no build? It's just, there's no 25 no build on the plan, there's only 50 that I see. Just curious. I know the rating says there's no work proposed in there, but I just don't see it on the plan, so I was just curious.
Yeah, just going off of the 26 call-out, 26-foot call-out, the existing shed and the proposed addition, we're staying outside. The removal of the landscape feature is within the 25-foot, sorry.
Is the wood deck in the 25-foot?
No, yeah, we would have, if it was closer than 26 feet, we would have called that out as the closest point of existing conditions.
All right. And did you go over what the proposed erosion control barrier
Yep.
you're gonna be putting there?
So there's a detail on the plan. So it is silt fence, 6 foot on center staked with straw wattles placed on the inside.
All right. All right, is there any other questions or comments from the commission or agent?
No comments, Mr.
No.
Chairman.
All right,
Oh, actually, yes, comment, just, excuse me. That if the commission wishes to issue the order of conditions, that I recommend adopting the standard order of conditions that you do put in every other order, plus any conditions that either any of the members would wish to include.
yeah, I think just the standard order of conditions unless somebody has something.
You can do an 8-inch or a 12-inch straw wattle.
I think in the,
I don't see it called out in the detail, just
it
curious.
might be in the narrative. I usually go for 8 inch just because it's easier to handle, but you know, if there's a preference for what the commission would like.
I think just because it works so close to the
Okay.
wetlands, I'd recommend a 12-inch.
Okay.
All right,
Excuse me, just for my clarification, 12-inch you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
all right, if there's no further discussion from the commission, this is a public hearing, and despite there
I'll
not
make a
being,
motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
I just want to point out that there's nobody in the public to get up. We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor? to
Aye.
close?
Aye.
The chair votes aye as well. And could I have a motion to approve the notice of intent as discussed at this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll be in touch, thank you.
All right. The next two items on the agenda are emergency certification for 20 and 25 Sophie Ruth Way. This is for tree removal. Any questions or comments for this emergency certification? It's for one tree that's, I guess, two large sections of it. It's on the edge of the wetland or even in it.
Do you know if the tree's already cut?
I haven't been out to the site, but I'm assuming it was.
Yeah.
Is that a new house, a new build, or?
Yeah, so there was a special permit issued for a common driveway to create Sophie Ruth Way off of 155 East Street, and there will be two single-family homes behind what is now 155 East Street.
Yeah, this is like a cross from the cemetery, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And they're still under active construction.
All right. Yeah, I mean, the aerial photograph, it does make it look like it's pretty close to that house. All right, so I guess I'll entertain a motion to ratify the emergency certification.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And agenda item M, emergency certification for 4 Terramore Drive. And this is a emergency certification for a failed septic tank. And we do, it's not the best description, but I do think we have a little bit more information on where the wetlands are. They're pretty close.
So can they do other work besides the sewer as part of this emergency certification? Because it looks like they're proposing new water service as well.
Let me double-check that one moment.
like we're saying.
My understanding is that it was abandonment of the residential septic and connecting to sewer. A new water connection was also proposed. So, I mean, emergency certifications are generally related to work that otherwise would threaten public health or safety, and the sewer definitely does, and
Yeah,
the water
like we have
appears to be-
definitive evidence that the sewer is an issue, but are they just doing the water because someone's already on site, or or is it a lead line that they have to replace? If it was a lead line, I could, perfect,
Yeah,
understand.
let me look at the open permit, one moment. I expect it is something like, once they opened it up and they realized it, because every home has to have, public water, so, or water, anyway. Let's see. Okay, dig and install pump to, find the house, install new grinder pump and accepting. So I see that the water connection permit is part and parcel to the sewer connection permit. And on the attachments, permit sketch, water sewer, let's see, bear with me for one moment. So it's not clear whether they were on well water or the reason for the water tie-in, but the sewer, and as you can, on the sketch that they included, the water and sewer lines are close to each other, so I don't know
Yeah.
if there was a failure with a well or something like that, but yeah, I'm not sure. I can certainly look into that and report back. Obviously, the work's been done because it was issued as an emergency certification, so if you want to
So
hold
the
off
water
on
work's already done too?
I'm sorry?
The water service is
It
already
appears to
done?
at least be, let me see if, oh, is there health?
What Terramore Drive?
Hopefully it wasn't done exactly as drawn either.
Water app application, let's see. Yeah, I do not see an obvious reason for the water connection being included in this, but I can certainly look into it and report back. And you're welcome to hold off on the ratification until I get those details. Again, the work is either at least already commenced or
Yep.
it may be completed, but it's up to you guys.
I would like to continue it, just to understand. If the work hasn't been done, then or if the work hasn't started yet, or if they don't, I'd imagine it's not the same contractor that's doing both, if I had to take a guess.
I think it is,
Is it?
yeah. It looks like Jim Hyder is from,
Yeah, I guess we can, I would recommend holding off and ratifying in the next meeting. Trying to get more information.
that's fine with me.
All right, yeah, then I'll entertain a motion to,
I don't think you have to continue just because you can just table it until the next meeting.
all right,
Because it's not a public hearing or anything.
Yeah.
It's a formal continuation, so we can just table that to,
right.
you can do that motion if you like.
we,
Oh, I'm not making it, I can't.
yeah. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to continue the emergency certification until the next meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right,
Figure that out.
and then new business, old business, I believe we have some new business.
We do have a little bit of new business, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what I've put in your meeting materials is I received correspondence from the wetland scientist for the 40 Commerce Way project, the warehouse project that you folks approved last year and also issued an amended order for last year. And what has transpired, I will put in that way, is the retaining wall that was intended to be constructed along the 25-foot no disturb zone has in fact been placed in the no disturb zone with a 320 square foot encroachment. And I have included the submission that the wetland scientist gave to me, and they wanted some action, but I wanted to bring it to you folks since it is an active order of conditions as to how you would like to treat this. I think there's a number of ways to do it, but I leave it open to you, and if you are looking for suggestions for further action, I'm happy to provide recommendations, but I'll let you folks have the chat first.
Yeah, so it's,
Don't they have to, or is the retaining wall already built? Is that what you're saying?
So is this just a mistake? They somehow curved it out, or is it falling over? Or?
In their narrative, it sounds like it was not intentional to put it there.
I was going to say, I think at a minimum, they have to come in front of the board for a minor modification request.
Right, so that's actually what I was wondering about, whether it could be a minor modification. However, the encroachment into the 25-foot no disturb zone would ordinarily require a waiver, and
Yeah,
in my
I think
experience.
they have to come in front of the board to get that approved.
Right,
That way-
right, so I
get that
guess,
waiver
I
and
guess the
Update
vehicle.
the plan set and show us that.
Right, so I guess I meant more, what would the vehicle be for that? So for, just for, an analogy, because it's where I generally operate, for the planning board, when someone makes a change that would require almost extra discretionary approval, because it would be in the form of a waiver, and it can't be improved administratively, I generally have them go back for a formal modification, and the equivalent here would be an amended order of conditions. If you think that that is punitive or excessive, we can certainly do it as a minor modification and just have them come back and do it as an administrative action instead of a public hearing. That's what I wanted to get direction on before I went back to the proponent to give them that direction.
yeah. and With not the full commission.
I think the first step would be to present it as a minor modification, and then we determine whether we approve or disapprove,
Okay.
and then go through the next steps. Because I think they have to present their case, they can't send a letter and us just say, it's okay.
So, and, apologies for that, that was my judgment call. I wanted you folks to be able to have a candid discussion
Yeah.
without them here, in order to determine what the best path forward would be without them influencing and for lack of a better phrase, making their case. I wanted you to be able to kind of look at it a little more independently without, being told, but, we did it for this reason or what have you. So, I apologize if that's,
Oh, no worries. I mean, you just got it the other day. I don't think they couldn't even, or I guess they could have made it to the meeting.
yeah, I also didn't know if that was entirely fair. So,
Yeah, I think if they put it on the next agenda, minor modification come in, we can hear their case, look at their plans, they can explain what the intent is, what happened, and then we can determine if there's anything additional we want them to do since they have encroached to try to make up for that encroachment to the
Sure.
25 no disturb.
Yeah, I
zone.
mean, they're proposing mitigation.
Correct.
all right, so I will go back to the proponent and have them come in for an administrative discussion at the next meeting on May 22nd. If at that time you feel that there is a public need to be served for, then having them go back and do a formal modification, we can discuss it at that time. But if you're satisfied with the plan of action, which can certainly be incorporated into their existing order of conditions, that's fine too.
All right. The only other new business that I am aware of is on May the 4th. We are having a town-wide cleanup day, so if anybody's interested in volunteering for that, it's always a fun time. And
An annual town meeting is Monday and Wednesday.
yes, oh yes, that's also an important thing. If anybody wants to go to town meeting, it's always quite the experience.
Entertaining.
Yes. I don't need to watch any drama on TV because I go to town meeting. All right, if there's nothing else to discuss, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right.